Okay, so let's start with our texturing lesson and UV editing lesson so that we can complete our objects here so we can get our staging lesson or our composition lesson, all right? So what we're modeling is the box for the Hawkeye camera. We do have the texture. It's just not a brand new one because as you can see those things are pretty rare and hard to find. So let me just go ahead and Bing a Kodak Brownie Hawkeye box. So we have an idea on, let's see here. All right, here we go. So we're gonna do this one. Well, we'll make the box brand new. It's just that all the damage in this one right here. So all right, so and we do have those here. They are Gary prepared those for us so that, and we'll give you all this all free, nicely laid out with transparent background and all that. Okay, we're probably just going to use a JPEG. Okay, so and the way it's processed right here is that it's how you kind of fold it, okay, or how you kind of lay it out. It's not necessarily exactly like this, because if you were to put it, this will be the front, that will be the bottom, and then we'll just basically we'll grab all the parts, okay, and then we'll kind of explain to you what UV editing is. All right, so let's get started. All right, so first thing is that I'm going to go to the front here from viewport, but let me turn on my screencast. The reason for this is we just want to get the dimension correct, okay? So I'm going to press 1 on the numpad. We're in the front. You can also do viewpoint, front, okay? And what we need to do is drag our box right here, which is the JPEG. So I'm going to drag it here, okay, into the empty one. Make sure when you do this you're in object mode and you don't have anything kind of edit mode selected. So there it is. The reason for this is that we just want to make sure that this is we're getting the right proportions, okay? So we're going to basically trace the proportion of the texture, okay? So there's two ways when you texture is or do your shading or UV editing, that you're using an existing image like what we have here, or you make a custom one, so you start from scratch. So this one is existing, all right? So I'm going to click on X-ray mode right here, okay? That means this will be see-through. I'm going to be selecting my image right here. I'm going to press G for move tool, or you can use the move tool right here. And I'm simply going to try and position this kind of centered to my box right here, all right? Because this is the front of the box, that's the side of the box. So I'm going to select my cube now, and I want to scale it. So I'm going to press S to scale. Okay, and then when I get close to the dimension of the box, well, it's actually looking like a square on the top right here. So I don't want to move the box, I want to keep it in the middle. So I'm going to move the image instead and see if that's a good match. All right, excellent, there it is. Okay, so let's take a look at the side. So it's a little bit narrow on the side, okay? So now I'm going to go to the side viewport. I'm going to press number 3 on the numpad, or you can also select your X right here. It'll take you to the side, or viewpoint right side, okay? And then I'll drag the exact same image, okay, right here, and simply press G and then just kind of take it right there, which is the side. Select my cube, scale this along the y-axis, and just kind of, there we go, so that we have the exact same dimension, or close to, where I was eyeballing this thing. So all right, so that's it. So we got our select the empty, which is those two images. So select one and press delete. Press delete. So we know that that's the this is our dimension for our box now. Okay. So next thing we need to do is very important right here. It might not make sense to you right now because you're not going to encounter any problem, but whenever you do a scale like this where you manipulate this, Blender still thinks this is a cube regarding its unwrapping. Okay, so we want to make sure that this is now what it's supposed to be. So I'm going to turn off my X-ray right here. While in object mode, I'm going to click Object, Apply, Scale. Look at the numbers right here. Okay, so once I apply the scale, they reset them to 111. So now this is like the starting dimension or aspect ratio of the cube, or now the camera box. Okay, so let's now add a shader to this. Okay, so from the previous lesson, you learn how to add a shader. All right, so let's kind of get into that habit of adding an HDRI as our lighting so that it can help us kind of visualize all the angles with really good lighting and not worry about missing out sides of the object that's not properly lit, you know. Okay, so I'm going to go to my environmental tab, this one right here. And if you're not sure, if you want to know how to do this a little bit slower, you know, we have our previous lesson on the Hawkeye, but I'm going to do it right here. So color, click on the yellow dot, environment texture, all right, and then open. Since we already downloaded that studio, I'm going to be using that same studio EXR or HDR. Okay, and then when I go to the fourth tab, and we do have lessons on what those things are, it's already posted on week 1. All right, so there we go. So it just simply gives us this lighting of multiple windows, and then we have a little bit of shading right there, which is fine. We don't want to get distracted with the background, so we go to the render tab or the engine tab right here. And let me make sure here, show last operator. I just want to put that in there. Okay, and we're going to go to film and then put a check mark on transparent on the background. Okay, so we don't get distracted by that. All right, so now let's go to our shading tab. Let's go to our shading. I want to make sure that we're looking at this from the front. I'm going to click numpad 1 and then turn on my screencast again so that it activates. Okay, and we're going to simply click and drag the photo for that. So I have that. Pretty sure it's on downloads, camera box, and we'll provide a link for you on Google Drive so you can have your own copy, of course. This is the one, the JPEG. I'm just simply going to drag it over here. Okay, and connect color yellow to yellow, base color, right? So once I drag that in there, all right, so now Blender applied it, but we're not going to be happy how it's applied simply because Blender doesn't know how you want that applied in there. Okay, so now we'll go back to this our shader so that we can define the roughness and how cardboard like we want this. And again, this is super low poly, you know. We're not even putting any added detail to this where you might be able to open and whatnot. Think of this as your video game asset where you just put it on the shelf and someone just simply walk by and not really pay attention. So all right, so let's fix our UV. Okay, so this is our texturing here. So I'm going to go to UV editing. All right, and we're going to see this one here. So we're going to go to that fourth tab again. We want to see it as is, but very important here, we need our orientation, right? So let me turn on my screencast again, and finally, here we go. Numpad 1, go to the front. So it's very important that we are looking at the front. Okay, so I'm going to select on the face selection, keyboard shortcut number 3, and I'm in the edit mode. All right, remember object mode, hit tab, you go to edit mode. So I get the face mode right here. I'm going to select this right here. So once it's selected, you can see it right here. It's highlighted, right? Well, isolated, sorry. Okay, and what I'll do here is this. If I rotate this just so that you could see it in 3D, that we have the front face selected. Okay, all right, so I'm going to press number 1, go back to the front, okay, with the face front selected. We're going to unwrap this. So I'm going to press U, keyboard shortcut U for unwrap, and what we want is project from view. Basically get the dimension, we want the front to be exactly how we're viewing this. If I click this one, watch that selection right there, press U, project from view, as you can see it adjusted to that aspect ratio of what we're seeing here. And the way we do this now is we simply select, click and drag, select all those 4 points and press G, or press G because we have continuous grab right here, right there. Just kind of position it, or you can also do the tool so you can be a little bit more precise. Okay, so now I'm going to zoom in. So I'm just going to scroll my mouse, hold down shift and middle click drag, and I'm going to press G here so I can kind of eyeball position it. There we go. Now we need to scale it. Okay, make sure your mouse cursor is inside this window. Press S and then just drag down until you're pretty much on the line right there. I think I missed it a little bit on the right. I'm going to press G and reposition it, and as you can see now here, if I rotate my camera, the front is now properly positioned. Okay, so let's now take a look at the back. Okay, so if I press number 1, that's the front. So how do we check the back? Well, I've shown that to you before. View, viewpoint, and then back. All right, or you hit Control 1 instead of numpad 1. You do Control 1, which is the opposite of front. Then you see the back. There it is. So I'm going to select the back face. Okay, from the face selection in edit mode. So I'm going to do the exact same thing. I'm going to press U, project from view. All right, and then Blender change that to this. Okay, and the back of this one is that image right there. So I'm going to select and drag all those 4 points, and then slide it in there. Press G, however you need it. Okay, I want to zoom in on this. Best way to zoom in, if you have a numpad, is click the dot. It just kind of zooms in. Okay, all right, I'm going to zoom out a little bit. Press S to scale, and again we're doing the exact same thing, just kind of scaling it to fit to size, and then just carefully, you don't want to get some of that white, All right, so there it is. So if we take a look, the front and the back is now done. All right, so let's go number 7, which is the top viewport. Num7, select that. Same process. We go here, press U, project from view, drag and select, press G. Okay, press dot on the numpad to kind of zoom in. And I'm going to scale it down a little bit to kind of match. All right. Okay, so this one right here, it's not, remember, okay, now I remember we didn't, I only matched this one, and well, we kind of eyeballed it, so it didn't quite match, right? So now we have to do a little bit of manipulation here. So I'm going to scale it a little bit. All right, and then I'm going to go to my scale tool right here. I'm going to drag the y-axis until it goes up a little bit right there, a little bit more. And then I'm going to go to my move tool and just kind of match it. All right, maybe I went too far with the scale. Scale it by here, right there. And there we go. All right, we got the top. Okay, and let's do the side. So that's the side number 3. Okay, press U, project from view. Here we are, and I'm guessing that's the right side right there. Press G, press dot on the numpad to zoom, press scale, Press G and then just kind of match this thing here. All right, probably good enough right there. Okay, and then here on number 3, Control 3 will show you the left side. Press and select the face here. Press U right here, project from view. Select everything. Press G right here. Press dot, it zooms in. Okay, I'm going to scale and position. All right, and finally the bottom. So that's 7, then Control 7 shows you the bottom. Same thing, we go select everything here. Press G and drag it down here, and then dot to kind of zoom in. And then I'm going to scale this one. It's a little bit longer and bigger than what we have. So let's kind of match that bottom. Scale it down a little bit. Okay, that should be good. All right, so let's take a look. All right, so that's our shading. Let's go to our layout. And I'm not rotating the object here, right? I'm orbiting the camera. All right, and there we are. So quickly we can add this thing to our previous project, and we can add a box to it. All right, so what else can we do with this? Since it's, if I press tab right here, super simplistic. All right, it's doesn't have any soft corners and whatnot, so let's add those real quick. All right, and you want to do this after you have done your texturing, because you do want to make sure that you don't want to complicate your model with your UV editing. Okay, so but let's go back to shading. I'm sorry, I forgot. We need to worry about now the roughness on this one. Okay, so if we go with roughness, we probably want this a little bit rough. Nothing's really 1.0 rough on this planet. You know, you're probably off by a hair like that. Okay, and then because it's cardboard, and looking at the original one, there's really not shiny parts to it. Okay, maybe some of the prints right here, which we could do. All right. Next is let's add some bump map to it. Okay, let's add some bump to this one. So whatever, we don't have a proper bump like what we explained in the polyhaven.com, where they have their normal map separate, so on and so forth. We're just going to kind of cheat here. We're going to use our existing photo, which is that one right there. Okay, and we're just going to make it not an RGB, but a non-color one. So what we'll do is, I'm on Mac, so I'm going to do Command C and then Command V to paste it. If you're on Windows, that's Control C, Control V. So I got another copy right here. Okay, and what's going to happen is that if I don't make changes to this and make it unique, whenever I change this to non-color, that one also becomes non-color. So they kind of share the same world. So we don't want that. So we want this one to have a another user. Okay, so when I do that, it kind of separates itself from the original. So now I can make this one into non-color without affecting our original base color. Okay, so I'm going to be using this, and I'm just going to use the, I'm not going to change it to a grayscale because I just forced it here to be a non-color. So now let's add a bump to this. So I'm going to go to Add and Vector right here, and then we're going to use a bump. Okay, so I'm going to click that bump and then just simply put it right here. All right, and then what I'll do with the color is that I'm going to drag it to the height and then normal to normal. And right here you're going to see some paper texture already, which is not what we want. It's a little harsh. So what we'll do here is lower the strength. Okay, so if I go to 0, there's none, and then I'm going to increase it a little bit, 0.28, just so that we have some sort of kind of like a cardboard paper texture in there. Okay, All right, so what I want now is to add a selection that can be shiny. Okay, so we're going to have a rough map based on this original, but we wanted a non-color, so I'm just going to copy this one right here, which is the non-color version in the color space. I'm going to Command C to copy it, Command V to paste it, or Control C, Control V. There it is. We can't plug this directly in there. We need a kind of like a middle one. Okay, so we're going to add a converter, a color ramp. All right, we're going to take in the color to the factor. Okay, and then we're going to take color to the roughness. Okay, by doing this, you can already see without me manipulating that it added some shininess on the actual print. You see it? So in a way, it will work for what our needs now, but it's probably a little too much. I've noticed too that now that the shininess is on, maybe the strength is a little too much on this one. And you can invert it too. So let's say we want to invert the bump. Probably not good. All right, we'll stick with that one. Maybe I can lower this a little bit. There we go. It's subtle, it's there. All right. Okay, so now the shininess. So I'm going to play with the white setting right here. And then if you want to cut down on the shininess, you dial that down a little bit. Okay, and then this one will, you know, make it a little bit more on the shiny part. So I think right there should be good enough. Okay, it's a little, I guess, too much right there. Let's dial that down. All right, right there, kind of like a fading, a little bit of shininess. Okay, that will work right there. So we got our setup right here. So okay, so just if that's a little too fast, just rewind the video and just kind of repeat. This is kind of like the setup we have, and then of course we have our tiling right here, and we have those video lessons posted for week 3, I believe. All right, so we are done with our shading, and let's go back to our layout. Okay, I'm going to save this one. I'm going to save it as, I'm going to call this one Brownie box. Save. All right, and then I'm in edit mode here, and I already did in object mode at the very beginning, object, and then I apply the scale. All right, so now I don't need to do that, but in case you forgot, you need to do that because we're about to bevel this. If you don't do that, then your bevel will not be proportioned. Okay, so let's add some bevel. So I'm gonna go to edge mode or line mode right there, number 2, edge select. I'm going to press A to select all the edges all the way around. Okay, and then what I'll do is I'm going to right click this and then bevel edges, or you can do Command B as well. That's a keyboard shortcut. Bevel edges, and then drag your mouse and it's going to start beveling it. So it's just trying to give it that kind of soft corner look. All right, so I went like so. And you might not be happy because that's just like an angle right there, but bevel is still alive right here if you open it at the bottom. Okay, let me click undo. So when you have those edges selected, of course you can just bevel whichever you want. You can. I selected everything because it's a basic cube to begin with. Bevel edge, drag it. Then once that, you open bevel, and then you can add segments right here. So if I add segments, it's starting to add kind of like lines in there and then kind of softening it a bit. Okay, and I'm going with 4 here because it gives me like a quad in the center. All right, and of course if we go to UV editing here, you can tell that that's taken into consideration because it's a lot simpler to be doing UV edit when your object is still simple, right? So we got those in there, and then what we can do with this is right click it and shade smooth. All right, so that it will kind of give it that kind of sort of fake smoothness on the corner. It gets rid of the jaggedness or the faceted look. All right, and of course there's other things that we can do with this. Part of editing is if I go and let's say Control R. I mean, I'm just showing this. We're not going to do it, but if you do want to make it a little bit more imperfect, like if I do edge cut loops here, like so, and then by manipulating, let's say the points, like so, like that, and then you can go. All right, so you can start kind of deforming it a bit, like it sag and whatnot. So, but that's not this lesson. You know, we're just trying to make it a little look presentable. Okay, so we got those, and this box should be ready. Okay, I'm gonna click save. All right, and while in version 3 we should have our asset browser and whatnot, but for now let's do the good old-fashioned one. So I have this selected, and I'm going to do Control C or Command C to copy the object. All right, right here, and then I did save this. Okay, and then we can just open the brownie that we finished from the previous one, from our previous lesson right here, and I'm going to Command V to paste it. All right, so all I did was transfer this object into this one right here. All right, and now there it is. I'm going to move it now. I'm going to make sure it's selected. Turn on my overlay because we want to make sure we're selecting the correct one. All right, so now we're kind of presenting them in a way. Let me make sure here that it's above ground. And we're probably going to put a proper floor on this one because we're just kind of putting that as a last thing. All right, so there is that, and we could, this is on separate pieces, so if you're done with this and you don't plan to kind of play or animate this this camera right here, I do suggest that you select everything, all the parts, okay? Maybe not this one. You can join them so that it's a lot easier to kind of manipulate. So let's say we're just going to leave that alone for now. Let's do a rotation here. Just kind of give it a. I'm going to go to the top right here. Kind of give it a little bit of an angle right there, and then I think the box is too small for it. Let's make it a little bigger, and then just kind of put that on the side right there. Okay, let's move our floor. All right, just so that we can kind of maybe show it like this with our composition later on. Okay, I'm just kind of playing with the idea here. All right, let me turn that off. There's our box right here. Maybe it's too flat to the camera. Show some of the side. All right, let's take a look at the old kind of commercial, how they kind of put them together. Let me make sure it's not sinking into the ground. And, okay, and then here we go. So we can start doing our composition on the other lesson. Okay, but for now, that's what we have. We got the box, and then we can also do another lesson on how to do the exact same thing using the, or that can be the homework for the flash holder, this one right here. Okay, all right, so that's it. Thanks for watching.